For this section, we're going to look at dividing decimals, which is probably the hardest part of dealing with decimals. We know that adding and subtracting is pretty easy. Multiplication, not too bad. Division is always the hardest. Even when we're dealing with whole numbers, division was probably the hardest, okay? But we're going to try to get through this. We're not going to make it too difficult. We want you to understand the basic steps required for dividing when you're dealing with decimals. And then very soon, we're going to start allowing calculators kind of all the time. So division is the process of splitting one number, the dividend, into equal parts, each of which is the size of the divisor. So if we look at something like 12 divided by 3 equals 4. Okay, well, we have 12, which is the dividend. We want to know how many groups of 3 we can get out of 12. 12 being the dividend and 3 being the divisor. So how many groups of size 3 can we get out of 12? And then the quotient is the result. So we can get 4 groups of size 3 out of 12. That's what division is, okay? Now, the divisor is the number by which you are dividing. So it's the one that's doing the dividing. The dividend is the number you are dividing. So 12 is the dividend. It's what's being divided. And then 3 is the divisor. It's what's doing the dividing. And then finally, 4 would be the quotient, which is the result to a division problem, okay? And for our first topic, we're going to look at dividing decimals when the divisor is an integer. So the dividend can be a decimal, but the divisor is going to be some either positive or negative whole number, okay? So steps for dividing decimals when the divisor is an integer, set up for long division. So you want the dividend to be kind of inside that box. And then we're going to divide, and the divisor is outside the box. And then just don't forget the quotient goes up top. Okay? And then we're going to bring the decimal point up into the quotient. Okay? So as long as your divisor is a whole number or an integer, you can just bring your decimal point up into your quotient and divide just like normal. Okay? One thing that's going to be a little bit different now is now that we're dealing with decimals, we're no longer going to use the R for remainder. We're going to go ahead and divide. Excuse me, we're going to go ahead and divide this out until we get a 0 remainder, okay? And then we're told here, just follow the steps for long division from section 1.7. And just remember, we're no longer going to use that remainder notation that we've used in previous sections, okay? So example 1 says find each quotient. So I have 517.2 divided by 6. So I want to set this up for long division. 517.2 is my dividend. 6 is my divisor. Okay. And all I have to do, as long as the divisor is an integer, all I have to do is bring my decimal up into my answer. And then I divide just like always. Okay. So I know 6 won't go into 5, but 6 will go into 51. And it just so happens that 6 will go into 51 8 times. So we're going to put 8 above the 1. 8 times 6 is 48. So I subtract. Let's see, 51 minus 48 is 3. Drop down the next digit, which is a 7, and then just repeat this whole process. So 6 will go into 37 6 times. 6 times 6 is 36, so I subtract. Let's see, 37 minus 36 is 1. Drop down the next digit in line, which is a 2. And 6 goes into 12 twice. 6 times 2 is 12. There's my 0 remainder. So I would say positive 517.2 divided by 6 is positive 86.2. Okay? So again, as long as the divisor is an integer, this is basically just regular old long division. Okay. So next we have 13.62 divided by 12, or well, let me correct myself. We have negative 13.62 divided by 12. So remember the basic sign rules. If you're dividing two numbers that have different signs, the final quotient is going to be negative. So I'm going to go ahead and just write a spot for my final answer with a negative sign. And then off to the side, when I do my actual long division, I don't have to worry about the signs. So I've got 13.62 divided by 12. I want to make sure I bring my decimal up into my answer. And so let's start dividing. So I know 12 won't go into 1, but 12 will go into 13. 12 goes into 13 one time. 12 times 1 is 12. So I subtract 12, and 13 minus 12 is 1. And then I bring down the next digit in line and repeat. So 12 will go into 16 one time. 1 times 12 is 12. When I subtract, I get a 4. Drop down the next digit in line, which is a 2. So let's see, 12 into 42. So 12 times 3 is 36. So that's as close as we're going to get to 42. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 3 up here. And then 3 times 12 is 36. So let's see, 42 minus 36 is 6. And so here's one of the differences. Back when we were dealing with integers and if we were dealing with whole numbers, at this point we would say our answer was whatever the quotient is with a remainder of 6. When we're dealing with decimals, we don't use remainders anymore. What we can do is we can add another 0 at the end of 13.62 because 13.62 is equal to 13.620, which is equal to 13.6200. I can keep adding zeros to the end of a decimal. It doesn't change the value, okay? So now I need to keep dividing. We want to keep dividing until we get a 0 remainder or until we see repetition, okay? So no more R with the remainder, okay? So I added a 0 to the end of 13.62. I drop that down, and then I get 60. So we want to keep dividing. Will 12 go into 60? And the answer is yes. 12 goes into 60 5 times. 5 times 12 is 60. There's my 0 remainder. So we really do need to divide until we get the 0 remainder or until we see repetition. And all you have to do is keep adding zeros to the end of your decimal and bring those down. Okay? So our final result is going to be negative. Remember, a positive divided by a negative or a negative divided by a positive is going to be negative, and we get 1.135. So that is dividing decimals when the dividend is a decimal, but the divisor is an integer or a whole number.